This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America. It just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start Spreading the News, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Start Spreading the News Yankee blog, or Yankees podcast. Of course, we are part of the Start Spreading the News Yankee blog, our wonderful website. If you go to Start Spreading the News, you will get Yankee news every single day, without fail, at 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and 2 p.m. That is all in addition to the game thread when the Yankees have a game, and then the quick hit, which is posted immediately following the game, giving all the readers a quick, very quick summary of what happened in the Yankee game that night or that afternoon, or in the case of a doubleheader, the games that were played. So tune in to Start Spreading the News. Check us out every day at 6 a.m., come back at 10 a.m., come back at 2 p.m., and then come back to take part in the game thread during the game. Right now, the game thread says that the Yankees, oh my goodness, in the top of the eighth, are down 4-3. When I came to the computer to prepare for the program, the Yankees were losing 4-0. So now it's 4-3. Will Warren started the game, lasted only 3.1 innings. He left in the fourth inning. Ryan Yarbrough came in with a man on third, and I believe only one out, got them out of the fourth, pitched the fifth, pitched the sixth, pitched the seventh. Unbelievable. So let me just quickly look. The Yankees got their runs, a Wells double, followed a Volpe double, which with both of those came with one out after a Goldschmidt single. So good to see Volpe getting a hit. Good to see Wells getting a hit. Getting a text right now. I believe that's from our good friend, Dr. EJ. He is in transit as we speak, getting ready to come to the program. Let me remind everybody also that this show is brought to you by Artemisia Publishing. Artemisia has a phenomenal selection of fantastic books, including numerous books written by me. That includes Scattering the Ashes, 365.2, From Compton to the Bronx, and The Least Among Them. If you haven't checked out Artemisia Publishing at apbooks.net, you are missing a fantastic collection of wonderful books. They have a plethora of great books. So when EJ gets on, the first thing we're going to talk about is this question of Should Aaron Boone get fired? EJ wrote an article on that on his Substack. And of course, most often, EJ's articles are then also published on Start Spreading the News. Usually they're a couple days later. Believe it or not, we have well, you should believe it, but we have such a great staff of writers, and I have so much content that I could really put out 4 articles in a day in addition to the game thread and the quick hit and all that, and still have plenty of stuff. So sometimes EJ publishes an article, I get word of it maybe on a Tuesday. It might not run on Start Spreading the News until Thursday or Friday, but it's all good. So Ryan Yarbrough helping the Yankees out, keeping this game close. Some other topics for tonight will include looking at our Tuesday discussion, which runs every Tuesday at 10 a.m. I'm going to ask EJ about the top 5 players he has ever seen as Yankees. I suspect I already know who's number 1, but I think that should be fun. And if the Yankees lose, I want to know EJ's thought on the team, because I have some questions on that. I want to talk about Paul Goldschmidt and his lack of power, though he did have a home run, Rob, tonight. I also want to talk, if we have time, about Brian Cashman and if he is too much of a prospect hugger. Should he release some of the Yankee prospects and trade them before they lose their value? I have 2 examples to share with EJ. But ladies and gentlemen, the traffic in Chicago has eased. EJ's car was able to make it over the busy streets. He was able to take the elevated train. He was able to maneuver his way through the metropolis that we call Chicago. And here he is, our good friend, Dr. EJ. EJ, how are you?
Much less exciting than that. I was sitting upstairs and saw a text saying it was 8 o'clock from Paul. So, hello everybody. I'm sorry for being late. The Yankees are currently 8-4, down 4-3. The New Jersey Devils are down 3-1. That's not looking great. And we can talk about the Yankees, not the Devils. Let's do it.
Yes. Oh, we always have Philly fans watching here, and we sometimes get comments from the Philly fans. I was hoping they'd see my uniform and say, oh my goodness, Dr. Sem is now a Philly fan. But it's not. But it is a tribute to the Phillies. That's an R. This is my baseball uniform. We got new uniforms this year, and nice. It's a hat tip to the old Philly uniform. We're Ridgewood. The hats are coming, so this is last year's hat, but I thought the Philly fans might get a kick out of the way we have
high school wear purple. Do I remember that from way back in the day?
Ridgewood, yeah, maroon. Ridgewood is maroon.
Okay, there we go. Yep. Okay, because I had somewhere in my head that you're wearing the Ridgewood colors, and
the team, it's not a high school team. Obviously, a young man's baseball team, 35 and older. But I'm the old man on the younger man's baseball team, and we won our first game on Sunday after 3 rainouts, so that was fun. But EJ, the other day you put on your blog on the Substack that Aaron Boone should be fired.
Yeah, I was really angry.
Changed, or what are you thinking?
I mean, look, I didn't think they should have re-signed him. I think they should have fired him last year. I have my problems with Aaron Boone as a manager. And just the Devin Williams being put in that game was just unconscionable. Like I was watching live going, what the hell are you doing? Like, why? Like, it's a 1-0 game. Devin Williams has looked awful. This is the Blue Jays. The Yankees have a chance to really put the Blue Jays away. They almost swept that series. And you have Luke Weaver right after an off day, like ready to go. Like Luke Weaver is primed and ready to go. Has been one of the best relievers in baseball this year. You could even go to Mark Leiter Jr. You could have kept Fernando Cruz in later in that game, and Boone went to his closer. And I think that is such a loser move. He did it with Clay Holmes a lot last year. He took him way too long to remove Clay Holmes from the closer role. We saw Aroldis Chapman in similar situations years ago. Like, this is not the first time that Boone has basically done his he's the closer, I guess he's got to go in there kind of routine. And I hate it. I'm glad that he didn't wait long. Like, essentially, I when I wrote that post, I was just convinced that it was going to take 2 or 3 more of these to remove Williams from the closer role, and it didn't. That's good. Glad. I was a little surprised that he didn't pitch at all during the doubleheader. There were a couple of moments where the Yankees were pulling all of their starters. So like let's try to get Williams fixed. So I'm curious to see how he gets used in the future. But I mean, the guy nothing is working for him right now. And I don't know why. It's hard to finding the numbers, and maybe his location's a little off or something. I don't know. But it's real. And you got to get him right. And that means trying to win the ball game and not trying to not hurt his feelings. And I think that Boone was very concerned about the feelings of his veterans. And I think that's always a massive mistake.
Yes. Now, our good friend Tevi Troy texted me yesterday or the day before, and he said, do you think the Brewers knew that there was something off with Devin Williams when they traded him? What do you think?
I don't think so. I think, look, maybe the Yankees knew something was off with Nestor Cortez. I think the Yankees, I think closers are weird and hard to manage. I mean, who was the other best closer in the world last year? It was Emmanuel Clase. And Emmanuel Clase has been worse than Devin Williams this year. And that goes back to the playoffs of last year. Williams ended the season dominant. He hasn't lost a lot of velocity. He hasn't we have no indication of an injury right now. I'm just going to go back to he had a baby. And I just would not be shocked if him having a baby has, broken something in him briefly. I think there's no reason to believe that he won't go back. I mean, that pitch is still incredibly nasty and is unique and has, he's been dominant for a very long time. It's not like a guy who had one good year. But you got to get him back. And that means you have to work with him in low leverage situations and just treat him like a pitcher who is really talented and really good. And you want him to be, playing at his best for the playoffs, and you want that asset for the playoffs. But you also want to win that one game because that game counts as much as a game in September. And this is going to be a much closer division this year than last year. And if the Yankees miss the division, or I think they'll miss a wild card spot, but by one game, that's one of those games you're going to look at and say, Boone blew it. And I'm one person who doesn't think that managers are all that important, or at least less important than we give them credit for. But one of the things that they do is decide who plays and when. And he made the worst possible decision. He could have got 4 other guys that I would have said that's a defensible decision over Devin Williams. And he just made the worst decision and blew the game. And you could see the second he went on the mound, just watching the Yankees scramble as soon as that first batter got on, to me was oh, they know they were waiting for this, right? But now we have 3 batter minimum, so he's got to pitch to 3 batters. And at that point, the game was basically over. Mm-hmm. It's just awful decision by him. I also think that he's been batting Cody Bellinger too high in the lineup. I think that, we can point to other similar decisions these last couple of years, which have basically been deferring to veterans and deferring to status in ways, right? You bat high in the lineup because it's a high status spot, right? Batting 6th is a low status spot. But that doesn't change your 540 OPS or whatever Bellinger had coming into this game. So I think it's a repeated problem with Aaron Boone. I mean, we're stuck with him. They extended him for reasons unbeknownst to me. And I decided to vent a little bit right after that game because I was just annoyed.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, rightfully so. And a lot of people agree with you. I never thought he should have been hired in the first place. I've never understood hiring a manager who has no experience, never had coached, never had led anybody anywhere in any situation. And they said, yeah, you're going to run the Yankees, the team that was 1 win away from the World Series. It just seemed like, if the Yankees were in a youth movement and they were rebuilding and they were 2 years, 3 years in a row that they weren't even in the playoffs, you go, all right, well, let's take a chance. Even then, I don't think it's a smart move. But to take a team that was that close and say, yeah, we're going to give it to this guy we have no idea if he knows about managing. And I don't really think he's grown all that much. I don't think we've seen much difference in the way he's managed all these very many years. He defers to the veterans, et cetera, et cetera. So, all right, that's interesting. So let's move on. The Tuesday discussion tomorrow, I think you heard me. By the way, our friend Brad put in Go Phillies. I have no problem with that. Then he put a Yankee stink thing. He knows I'm not going to put that kind of stuff up. And again, the Yankees don't stink. They're in first place. You could write, I hate the Yankees. I dislike the Yankees. I think the Phillies are the greatest team ever. Yeah,
they got 2 games in the loss column over Philly, so come on.
Yeah, but
I want to note, by the way,
stink.
Still have that
the jersey.
Still have that Phillies jersey. Still waiting for someone to write us, Mr. Phillies fan. Real Muto jersey came accidentally in the mail. I will mail it to the first person to either you can Google my email, just Google my name, you'll find my email. Email me or DM me on Blue Sky or whatever. It's a medium, and I don't want it. So whoever emails it to me, I'll mail it to you.
Or you can reach out to Start Spreading the News. If you go on the site, our email is there, and I'll get your name and address to EJ, and he'll mail you a free jersey.
I'll even autograph it if you want, though. I'm not sure you want mine, but
you know what was really cool? I did a presentation yesterday in Fairlawn, and when I got there, they handed me, I don't know, it had to be 12 baseball. I think it was 12, 2 packages of 6 baseballs.
Oh, that's cool.
They had me autograph them.
That's very cool.
They gave them away as prizes at the end of the night. They charged people to come to hear me speak on home runs, strategies for success. It was great. People were really into it. I used Yankee players as the stories of Yankee players as ways to teach people methods of how to be successful and how to live successful and productive lives. So it was really good. But the coolest thing was then people got baseballs with my autograph on them.
You got to work on your signature, right? You need like a fancy looking signature, like all the real ones.
And EJ, they seemed happy about it. I figured they'd be like, "Well, I'll just throw this in the mud, right?"
No, you give me a real baseball. That's great.
Yeah, that was
a real
kind of
baseball.
Fun. So there's a if you see them on eBay, there's now 12 Paul Semendinger signed brand new baseballs.
I don't want to see them on eBay. Come on, people, don't sell those. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
So, tomorrow's Tuesday discussion is Aaron Judge the greatest player that any of us have seen live? And I put that out to our writers. And I already know your answer because you already think and have written and have proven statistically that he might be the greatest hitter ever.
I say
so I don't want to ask
right-handed
that.
hitter. I think he's the greatest right-handed hitter ever, or has a shot to be.
Okay. And he's had some of the greatest single seasons. You've written that.
I think he has had the greatest single seasons, 2 of them, 2022, 2024, and soon to be 2025. Somehow still batting 409.
417 or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, EJ, just think they don't have to be ranked, but the top 5 Yankee hitters you've seen in your lifetime.
So Judge is definitely number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think number 2 has got to be A-Rod. Number 3, it's probably Jeter. I mean, if we're just talking about hitting, right? I mean, Jeter being a shortstop, that adds something. But probably Jeter, I'd say, stay still is number 3. Number 4, it's getting a little tougher. Because my lifetime is one thing. My memory starts with the 90s Yankees, right? That's it. So I'm going to say Bernie probably is my next best hitter. And after that, man, I mean, you can go to Posada. That's an option. You can go to, Juan Soto, I guess I got to do it 1 year. I guess I got to name him. So I guess Soto's higher. Judge, Soto,
A-Rod,
Bernie Williams, Derek Jeter.
Wow. You put Bernie above Jeter.
Yeah. I think in terms of pure, in terms of pure hitting, like peak hitting, I think Bernie's better. Jeter had a much longer career, was a shortstop, and so a better overall player by a mile. But peak, peak Bernie was incredible,
especially in the playoffs. He had so many big moments. Is Bernie Williams a Hall of Famer?
No.
Wow, because you're a big Hall of Fame guy.
I am. If I remember correctly, looking at his numbers, he's he wouldn't be the worst player in the Hall of Fame, but he'd be close to it. Yeah, 49.6 career Baseball Reference wins. Remember, Bernie was basically done by age 33. And even when he was peak Bernie, he was a 5 to 6 win player, right? He never won an MVP and he never deserved it. He was just really, really good for those 5 for that peak, and then dropped off the face of the earth really early. I mean, Joe Torre, late in Joe Torre's tenure at the Yankees, was trying to play Bernie every day, and he just couldn't. And frankly, it was a little sad. He shouldn't have played him. I remember Bernie playing like right field with no arm. It was kind of sad to watch. But like peak Bernie, Bernie and Jeter are very close, very, very good, both of them. But I think was a better hitter, a switch hitter, could hit more home runs than Jeter, still had that high average, had a couple of just really, really great years. Worse defender, I think, than we kind of gave him credit for at the time, which is one reason why the win number is so low. But also, again, like he was basically done by 33, and so it's kind of hard to go to the Hall of Fame that way.
Top of the ninth, 2 outs. Yankees are down 4-3.
Yeah, Judge just went down.
Judge struck out. What a bum, right? Like this, what's he hitting now? 412?
Yeah. Well, I'll say like the Orioles pitching staff isn't doing great right now, but Felix Bautista being back, that's not good news. Felix Bautista is a very, very good relief pitcher. So I'm not sure if we're getting this one.
The only guys who you don't have on your list that I have on mine as I got ready to write the article, which will be published tomorrow at 10, is I didn't do them. I didn't rank them either. I did them more chronologically. Mm-hmm. So before Jeter would be in my memory, like the great Yankee hitter was Mattingly. It was not even a question. He was godly. He was otherworldly. He was magic, and then he got hurt, of course. But like, he was bigger than life, Don Mattingly, for Yankee fans in that era. And before that, it would have to be Reggie. That's when I became a Yankee fan.
Reggie was one of the ones that came to mind here, but also Ricky, right? I mean, that's the other one you gotta give credit for. But yeah, it's actually amazing. The Yankees haven't had that many dominant hitters in my lifetime, or even in your lifetime. They've had a lot of guys who didn't go to the Hall of Fame, but were close. Posada,
Winfield. We can't forget Winfield.
Dave Winfield.
And he did go to the Hall.
Even like a Paul O'Neill. Guys who could be a batting champion once in a while. Keep going, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys, right? Gary Sheffield was on this team. Jason Giambi. A lot of guys in that tier. Tino, right? I mean, 44 home run Tino Martinez, right? But not a lot of guys who were Hall of Famers because they were slam dunk hitters. Jeter is a Hall of Famer because he had longevity, right? He was really, really good for a long time, played a key position. And there were a couple of seasons where Jeter was like close to an MVP, but he was not, he never had, A-Rod's 58 home run season or something like that. And then you go to the late 70s Yankees, you guys like Chris Chambliss made that team, right? They don't compare to, say, the Big Red Machine, who had 3 or 4 all-time greats on them. But the Yankees have always managed to put together a deep team, and I think that's always been their secret. Lots of good hitters, or lots of very good hitters, legendary guys, but a lot of Monument Park hitters, but not necessarily Hall of Fame hitters. Which is different from their previous part of their history, right? The Mantle, DiMaggio, Gehrig, Ruth days. They had the best player in the world, right? Aaron Judge is the difference, right? Aaron Judge is the best player in the world, and is not really challenged for that at the moment.
No, and the thing about Judge that's just amazing me, he could have been the MVP in 2017. They gave it to Altuve. He would have been the MVP if he didn't run into the wall in 2 years ago with the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. And, you appreciate Judge and you say, boy, he's a very, very, very good player. Then he has the 62 home run season and you go, yeah, that was neat. That was cool. That was really remarkable. Okay. That was probably the best we'll ever see. He follows that up. He's doing even better. Then he runs into a wall. That's not his fault. That's Dodger Stadium. Then last year, he was arguably better. And then this year, he's even arguably better again. I mean, he just keeps getting better. There was an at-bat tonight. I think he struck out. It was his third at-bat. But he swung and missed at a pitch. And I saw him looking like, like, it's like he goes up there expecting to get a hit every single time up. Every time he swings. It's not like, he might say like, oh, I hope I get a hit, or it's like, I will get a hit. I mean, that's sort of the attitude he has now. Like, I'm so good that nobody can get me out ever, which is sort of the attitude a lot of batters have when they see me pitching against them. but he's doing this against major leaguers.
So I think that the story of Judge that we'll tell, after he retires is a story of adjustment. Aaron Judge at so many points throughout his career has remade himself and changed his swing, even deep into this period where he's been the best hitter in the world. So after his first season, he was striking out too much. He remade his swing, struck out a lot less. I actually don't know what the change was before the 2022 season. I don't think I've seen that reported. I'd love to hear like an insider talk about that. And then each of these other seasons, he's been changing little bits. And one thing that Baseball Savant wrote up today is that Judge is standing differently this year in the box. So he used to stand very open, right? So he had his left leg pointed a little bit toward third base, or 20 degrees toward third base. And this year he's completely straight. So he's, I believe, 5 degrees is the angle of his leg. And I wonder if that is why he suddenly has this like contact swing. Judge has an expected batting average of 350. So not just getting lucky, right? A little bit lucky to hit 400. You have to get a little lucky. But he's just like peppering line drives, and then he still has the ability to hit a big home run, but he's definitely hitting a little less top exit velocity. And I think that's a good thing, because I think that a lot of that exit velocity is essentially wasted. The home run still counts the same. So if you hit a 480-foot bomb like Judge is capable of, if you to build your swing to create that, you're giving something up somewhere else. I think he kind of figured that out. And so, he can, I don't think he's gonna hit 400. That doesn't really, that's you'd be crazy to predict anybody hits 400, even if they've done it for a month. But can you get a 350 with a 750 slug? I mean, the numbers over his last year, I think, are the most incredible numbers. And now that he's at the point in the season this year, he's past the 1-year anniversary of his slump ending last year. You remember he started the season last year.
Oh, it's terrible.
Right, and it goes down as one of the best seasons of all time, with 3 to 4 weeks of really bad play. And people were questioning, like, is Judge hurt? What's going on? He had come back early from spring training. And he turned it on against the Brewers late in April. I was at one of those games. And since then, his last 365 days. So this is a full season. He has played 159 games during that time. Aaron Judge has hit 364 with a 490 on base and a 766 slug.
How many home runs?
With 62 home runs over that time. It is no one has found a 365 day stretch where anyone else did that. This is I think maybe Ruth, but you have to go back to the 20s, right? Integrated baseball. Mantle might have done it, but we have not found a 365 day stretch. No one else has done it. This is better than Bonds' peak. It is incredible. And that's why when you look at him batting 400, you go like, I don't know. Like, he just did 360 over a year. Why can't he keep going? Right? There's no sign of Aaron Judge letting up.
This is my point. He was very good, and he was great. Fair enough. He was great.
He was great, but the first post I wrote on my blog was he might not make the Hall of Fame. Right?
So
he was great, but he was a late bloomer. He's made it. Now. He's in.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, he's got 55 WAR right now. So let's say he got injured and ended his career now. 55 is borderline for the Hall of Fame. There are lots of guys around there. They're in the Hall of Fame. Lots of guys who aren't. But then you look at his peak and you say, well, he had the best peak ever. Maybe Bonds is better. Maybe Bonds and Ruth are better. That's what we're at right now. Maybe Ted Williams is comparable. Like that's the conversation we're having for Judge's peak. And the difference is that's coming in his 30s and not in his 20s. The reason why Bonds is going to go down as a better hitter all time, you can talk if you ignore steroids, is that Bonds did it also in his 20s. He did it in his late 30s, and he had a Judge-like peak in when he was in his 20s. But the players I was comparing him to were Trout and Pujols. Trout, I think, is now basically done. Right? I think maybe he'll have some good seasons, but Mike Trout is on the very tail end of his career at this point, which is very sad. But from his age 20 through his age 27, or I'll even go to his age 30 season. So before he turned 30, Mike Trout put up 81 wins. which is incredible, right? I mean, that stretch, I don't think Judge will ever beat that stretch, though he's been better than the best seasons of Mike Trout. And Pujols did basically the same thing, but was like even a little better. And so the difference between those two guys, they were bad in their 30s. So Pujols was effectively done being a good producer around 35. And just continued to play for a long time because he had the big contract. Mike Trout has been effectively done since he was 30. Aaron Judge is 33. He is better than ever. The comparable is Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds was good until he was 40. He got injured at 40, and that's when he was still good after that. But he was the best player in the world when he was 36 through 40. So there is precedent for someone having the physical ability to keep up this type of hitting this late into his career. I see he's not getting fat, right? He's not getting slow. His defense has now gone, now that he's back in right, by the way, is the best in baseball. Like he has an outs above average that's in the 95th percentile or whatever in right field right now. He's stealing bases. I see no reason to believe that this is going to stop unless he gets hurt. And look, anybody can get hurt, but I don't know. Judge hasn't gotten really, except for running into a wall, hasn't gotten hurt in a while now.
That's correct. And that was one of the knocks. He seemed to be hurt a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean and he started at 25. He was a 25-year-old rookie. That's the knock. Like if Judge had figured this out 5 years earlier, he could go down as the best ever. I don't think he will because again, like he's got to do what Pujols did, but in his 30s. But after Pujols and Trout, like I think he's the best. In modern baseball, I start modern baseball around 1970. So you go to some righties before that. But I mean, I think we're watching something really special, and it's weird that it doesn't feel like it. Maybe they'll tell legends of Aaron Judge like throughout baseball 20 years from now, but I don't sense, and this is me, very Hegelian philosophy nerds looking for someone to acknowledge us. I don't sense that baseball thinks of Aaron Judge as they're watching a legend. I think they think they're watching an MVP, but I think that his numbers are getting to the point that no one else has done it before. It's just incredible.
It's incredible. And like I say, the amazing thing is when he hit those 62 home runs, I said, all right, that was fun. That's cool. Now he'll just be what he is. And I predicted or thought in my heart or whatever, like it's just, there's no way that's going to last. That was his one great year. Maris had 61 home runs and he was a very good player afterwards. And I thought Judge would be a very good player, but he continually every year after he's raised the bar. It's blowing my mind. It's just, and it's fun. And I think if he ends up hitting 400 this year, people will start to, 390 or whatever.
Yeah.
People say like, yeah, we're watching a legend.
I mean, I think that if Aaron Judge has a 350 batting average, he's going to have a slug well over 700. Just barely hit 700 last year. He's going to have an on base of nearly 500. You can't beat it. You can't. But I don't think I don't know if 350 captures the imagination of everybody. I think if he chases 400, all of a sudden, like he becomes otherworldly, and people who don't really follow the game hear and start to say like, "Wow, that Aaron Judge on the Yankees is a superstar. He's bigger than life." I don't get a sense of how. Not if he's broken through the way like Ohtani has. I mean, Ohtani is just a different beast, right? I mean, I'd rather have Judge, but Ohtani's fun in a different way, right? It makes sense. And going 50-50 last year is just incredible, right? But it's weird that he's a Yankee and he's not the biggest star in the game. And again, I don't get the sense that he's not the kind of guy who's going to go on Saturday Night Live the way that Jeter did. Or at least that's not the way he's breaking through. Maybe it's just baseball's place in the culture right now. I don't know. But I mean, look, Aaron Judge, he wears number 99 because he's maxed out. He's this giant human being, seems like a good ambassador all around, and I don't know. I'm very happy I get to see him play, and I hope he's still really good when my son's able to watch baseball.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yep. All right. Let's move on. The Yankees are 11-12 this year, and after losing tonight, they have lost. They're 11-12. Now you're going to say, no, they're 17-12. And I'm going to say they're 11-12 in games Max Fried doesn't start. So Max Fried has been phenomenal. They've won all six games he's pitched. But without him, they're an under 500 team. Now, you could say that about a lot of teams over the years. Tom Seaver carried them. Though I don't know.
Starting pitching is pretty important. Yeah,
correct. So my question really is this. It's really a two-part question. Can Max Fried continue to be so dominant? I mean, Ron Guidry was in 1978. He won his first 13 games. He went 25-3. I think those 3 losses, he might have had 30 starts or whatever. I think those were the only times the Yankees lost, and they were all by 1 run. I mean, he was just unbelievable. So he did it. He carried the Yankees on his back that year for the most part. Ed Figueroa won 20 games. Catfish Hunter was out for a while. Then he came back and was amazing down the stretch. It wasn't just Guidry, but it was primarily Guidry. If Max Fried stays that great, can he? That's the one question. But if he doesn't, can the Yankees still be competitive with Max Fried being maybe slightly better than a 500 pitcher when they're really not a 500 team except when he's on the mound?
So Max Fried is I believe the MLB leader in ERA over the last 5 seasons. Mm-hmm. So I think he's fine. I think this is what you were buying. I think this is what we got. We got him. Statcast numbers a little bit worse than his actual outcomes. So there might be a little bit of regression there, but I think that, any kind of any Max Fried regression can be offset by other guys. I think Max Fried's really good. I think the other guys are bad, but not this bad, if that makes sense. I think Carlos Rodon as a second starter has been good so far. I've been, the last couple of starts, I've been really impressed by him. And I think I was kind of overreacting a little bit when I wasn't very happy with him a couple of weeks ago, because the Statcast numbers were the opposite. They're actually really good for him. So Rodon's numbers get a little bit better. Rodon's expected numbers get a little worse, but that makes his numbers get a little better. Fried gets goes more toward his career numbers. I think we're okay there. I think that one thing they talked about during the broadcast today that we need to remember that I think is really important here is defense. This was right after Jazz Chisholm made I don't know if you saw this, a great play in the 4th inning to get a ground ball. And the Yankees, I believe, have the 3rd best defense in the league at the moment by outs above average. It's pretty good. That is what you were expecting when you kind of had the change to the roster. You're expecting better pitching, which we didn't get. But I think that can cover up a lot of flaws. Max Fried, for instance, right? Even if Max Fried's not at his best, he's a ground ball pitcher. And if you put a really good defense behind him, then you're going to convert a lot of balls into outs. That said, I think the Yankees need a starter. I mean, the Yankees clearly are short 1 or 2 starters. Luis Gil's starting to throw. We won't be back for a while. And, you're hoping to get him back healthy, but you can't count on it. I will say Cam Schlittler is off to a really strong start in the minors. I think he's probably going to be a AAA. The Yankees usually do their promotions in the middle of May. So he's probably going to make that first promotion in the middle of May. So you'll have, I think, a really talented pitcher who's looking good. Hopefully, maybe can take one of these spots. But I still think you're going to need a trade. Maybe you have to trade him to get somebody. And, I think that the Yankees should be very aggressive at looking for a starter. Second team start being willing to trade guys, and they're not there yet. I think the Yankees need starting pitching now. And I don't know who that is. I don't know who's going to be available, but someone will be available. There's actually a decent number of starters who are free agents. There's a surprising, there's 10, there's a tier of 10 starters who, who are free agents. So I think, you just got to survive until the deadline. And so far they're thriving. And so you keep scoring runs, have the lockdown bullpen, and just hope your starters don't blow every game.
All right. So we've talked a lot about Volpe not hitting. I don't want to talk about Volpe today. You've talked about how his Gold Glove defense and his occasional power carry him, and it makes him an above average player, even if his OPS plus is below average.
Now it's well above average. He's at 770 right now, Paul. And have you looked?
No, OPS plus. Isn't it under 100?
Well, 770 is his OPS, and so his OPS plus will be about 120.
You think his OPS plus is that high?
He's actually Volpe's had like a scary good, like an underrated good week. Because he was at
like 5 for 10.
With like 3 doubles or 4 doubles and a home run or something.
And he had a double today.
Yeah. So he was 120 OPS plus coming into today. And then I think he's still at 770 exactly, right?
120. Unbelievable.
Yep.
Sometimes you get blown away. All right. Anyway, so you have made the points on Volpe very well. So I really want to hear about it, your position on a different guy, and forgetting the platoon splits. Paul Goldschmidt's hitting like 360. That's not sustainable. I don't think so. But if he keeps his current power numbers, which isn't very much, he's a singles hitter primarily, and he ends up hitting like 305 to 310, and he plays the same kind of defense, which has been solid. Is that good enough, or should the Yankees feel like they could have gotten better?
I mean, if you look at some of the other guys, they were looking at like Christian Walker, Carlos Santana. They're actually off to pretty bad starts. So we only dodged a bullet there. I am skeptical that Paul Goldschmidt continued to be a productive player while hitting for very little power. His hard hit rate is 32th percentile. His exit velocity is 30th percentile, but his expected numbers are really good. He has an expected AWOBA of 366, expected batting average of 307, expected slug of 489. So he hasn't been getting lucky in the sense that his balls are falling in, right? And it's only a month, and so players will sometimes get lucky. But I just, this is such a weird player. I think about like Yandy Diaz as a comp. I was trying to think of the other day, like who does this? And Diaz is the one name I can kind of come up with where Diaz would hit 300 with not that much power, get on base a bit. And
Luis Arise, is that a terrible example?
Arise, though, I mean, strikes out 1% of the time, right? So like Arise is doing something different. But what I mean is like a first baseman. So you don't get a lot of defensive value. You're not fast. And you're not hitting home runs. And like there are some guys out there that have done it, but it's pretty rare. But maybe it's the best he can do at 37. I don't know. It is a weird profile. It is weird to see a hitter remake themselves this way. Again, my theory is the torpedo bats, that he's like optimized his swing for a torpedo bat. I don't know. But I mean, so far he's doing it. Like, this isn't fake. I'm just very skeptical of this last. I mean, this is just such a weird profile for Goldschmidt.
I agree. So here we go. My last question before if there's anything you're gonna bring up. Oswald Peraza isn't hitting. He doesn't play much. He hasn't looked stellar out there when he does play. A couple of years ago, the Yankees probably could have traded him for something of value. Spencer Jones has some good numbers in the minor leagues right now.
Lots of strikeouts,
he's still striking out all the time. Yeah. Last year, I believe they could have had Corbin Burns if they had been willing to part with Spencer Jones. It would have been Corbin Burns for only a year, like Juan Soto for only a year. But I think you put Corbin Burns on the Yankees last year, and their chances of winning that World Series are a whole lot brighter. And getting there would have been a whole lot easier, et cetera. I mean, it would have just been a much better season if they'd had Corbin Burns. Hard to say that when you make the World Series. But overall, there was a period last year where they just lost all the time, remember? And the only reason they were able to stay in first place was the Orioles lost more, right? The Yankees were losing all the time and the Orioles were losing all the time. You could have had a better shot at winning if you had gotten Corbin Burns, but they didn't want to give up Spencer Jones. Oswald Peraza, we've seen his stock drop precipitously. This seems to happen a lot with certain Yankee prospects. But it probably happens around the league too. So that's really my question.
I mean, Jackson Holiday, we just saw on the Orioles, right?
Prospect hugger. Say again?
I don't think Jack Cashman's a prospect hugger. I think these are the types of players you rarely see traded. For example, Oswald Peraza. I don't know what the trade would have been. We were talking about, hey, maybe you should trade him back when he had some value. I'm just not sure what you could get in return for him. And I think at this point, He's just not that good. And maybe other teams saw that. He was never a super highly rated prospect. He was in the top 100 a little bit during kind of his peak seasons. So maybe you should trade him then. But then you want insurance against Volpe not working out. I think the reality is that any given prospect, no matter how good, right? Jackson Holliday was the number one prospect in baseball. And he is batting .237 with a .673 OPS. And that's an improvement over last year.
He was sent back down, I think, at one point last year.
He was sent back down earlier this year. He's not very good. And maybe he'll figure it out, but maybe he won't. And I think you can say the same about any prospect. But I think that the rewards are so high that you have to take a lot of chances knowing that, 25% of the time you're going to hit, 25% of the time you'll get like a partial hit, and 50% of the time you'll just get nothing. And I think that the Yankees have traded prospects for players. No one we've really missed all that much. There's a couple of guys. Michael King, but I wouldn't even call him a prospect. Right? He had like 3 years of team control left. Right? He was a guy, an established reliever they just converted to starting. But you miss him. I'd love to have King now, but also we got Juan Soto. So it felt like a pretty good trade. We went to the World Series. I think Brian Cashman, to me, the bigger problem is that up until very recently, Brian Cashman didn't have a lot of prospect successes to show for it. Not that, guys either traded away or not traded away. No one was any good. Mm-hmm. And I think teams can see through that. So, maybe a couple of years ago we were saying, hey, trade Everson Pereira. That'd be great, before his value goes away. But no teams wanted him. Or maybe no teams wanted him. We don't know. And maybe Spencer Jones.
How is Everson Pereira doing?
Not well.
Okay.
Same as before. He's hitting for power. He's striking out a million times. Spencer Jones, the book's not closed on him. He's having a good season again. He's actually showing power in games more than he has before. He's just striking out a ton. And so he's definitely not getting called up anytime soon, but I wouldn't yet call that one a miss. But then you look at the roster and this is something I've criticized Cashman for in the past, but you got Austin Wells, you got Ben Rice, you got Anthony Volpe, you got Jason Dominguez. There's something going on here that's working. One problem I've always had is that's all number one pick guys other than Ben Rice. And you would want to see some more just okay players who can fill gaps that they've missed over the years. But at least right now, you got a team that's being held up by young guys, or at least young guys are very important to that team. And I think all of those guys have another gear that we haven't seen yet. I mean, Dominguez is like an all-star against righties and just has this problem hitting lefties. He's one of those guys you could see really go crazy. Ben Rice, kind of similar thing. Not a switch hitter.
At what point does it make sense for the Yankees to tell Jason Dominguez give up switch hitting?
I'm not a hitting coach, but I would have done it by now. His numbers are so consistent from this left side. This is not just a this year thing. In the minors, he wasn't a good right-handed hitter. In the majors, he wasn't a good right-handed hitter. Also, how many switch hitters do you think there are in baseball right now?
Yeah, even in baseball history, there's not a whole heck of a lot of them.
No, but there used to be more. So if I go here and I look at the top hitters, just qualified hitters, right? People who are playing games right now as switch hitters. And I search for that right now on Fangraphs. I'm going to go for switch hitters who are qualified, and it's going to load while we're talking here. There are a total of 12 switch hitters with a positive wins above replacement right now in all of baseball. Of those who are actually good, you have Ellie De La Cruz, Francisco Lindor, Cal Raleigh, Geraldo Perdomo, maybe Ozzie Albies, who's having a bad season, maybe Adley Rutschman, who's having an okay season. Jose Ramirez is on this list, but he's also having a bad season. So you can count it on two hands, basically, the number of switch hitters that are good. And I think that tells you something maybe about the modern game. Maybe it's too hard to have two swings today. And this, Jason Dominguez, I'm sure, has been batting switch hitting most of his life. But maybe a lot of players gave it up earlier for good reason. And it's just something that you can't do anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't see what you're losing. He's batting like an NL pitcher right-handed. And people keep pointing to like one hit he had. Like he had like one big hit earlier this season, and then like dude's batting 100. It's bad.
And that one big hit wasn't exactly graceful. It wasn't like you saw it and you said,
yeah,
wow.
It wasn't a 400-foot home run, right? Yeah.
But it wasn't a graceful swing or anything. He ended up, the bat hit him in the head. His helmet flew off. Supposedly he lost his contact lens.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he said, he's not hitting, but let me tell you, that swing is a swing of, he looks like Will Clark from the right side or whatever. Like nobody's saying that.
I mean, for his career. So across parts of 3 seasons. So not a lot of at-bats. He has something like 100 at-bats throughout his career. So, relatively small sample. He is batting against right-handed pitching, 278, 357, 539. Right? That is one of the best players in baseball against right-handed pitching. And against left-handed pitching, he is batting 109, 258, 164.
That's his first career?
That's his career. Now, again, that's a very small sample, especially against left-handed pitching. But his numbers in the minors aren't really much better. He had I think a 500 OPS difference put on the platoon slide. And I get the argument that he doesn't have a lot of reps because he's been injured. He's young, Dominican player, so he didn't play all that much as a kid, or at least as a high schooler, and has been from the right side just doesn't see that many tough pitchers. But again, I think that might be the reason why this doesn't happen that much anymore. And I love the allure of another great, Yankees center fielder who's a switch hitter, but he is so good from the right side from the left side that I would just see what you got. Because right now, I mean, I'd rather Oswald Peraza take a plate appearance against a lefty. I'd rather anyone like JC Escarra. Like these guys are probably better than Dominguez right now.
All right, EJ, do you have anything else for us?
Let's see. I think that I'm about to do my end of the month kind of roundup. So it's the end of April. So by the time we talk again, it will be May. And I don't know if it feels like this, but the Yankees are the best team in the American League. And I think it's pretty clear at this point. The Red Sox have, 2 feet are behind by 2 games in the loss column, one game in the wins column. The Tigers are pretty good, but honestly, you look at their roster, I don't really believe it. The West is a mess. I think that the Yankees are in really good shape, and that's with an injured pitching staff. I think this team's going to get better at the trade deadline. I think there are some players that have another gear, and I'm not sure if Aaron Judge is going to be get any worse. You get some regression from guys like, Goldschmidt and Rice, but then other guys get a little better. And so that all kind of evens out.
Yeah.
I think you got a pretty good, I think you got a pretty good baseball team. I think watching them against the Blue Jays, they were clearly the better team. I think, even tonight against the Orioles, the Orioles, Sagano shut them down, but he's their best pitcher, and the Yankees almost won, and they got rid of Sagano after 5 innings. And then they get to have 2 games, and I don't even know who's starting tomorrow for the Orioles because Charlie Morton has failed. I feel pretty good right now. I think this is a fun team to watch in a way that other teams haven't been before. And I'm really just kind of rooting for the 3 or 4 young guys to step up and be a core. And I think that could be really fun.
That will be fun. That will be great fun. All right, EJ, I think we did it. Another great hour in the book. I'm glad you got through all that traffic. Sometimes it's hard when you're living in a city. You started your day upstairs and you had to get downstairs and you have a baby.
That's pretty close to what my day was today. So yes. Okay. But yes, I'm sorry for being late, everybody. And it's because I was just so enthralled watching the Yankees score some runs.
No, it's all fun. We had the babies this weekend since Thursday, and it's just a delight. It's the best. I'm telling you, they're just fun. They're great. A lot of work, but they're fun and they're great. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Start Spreading the News podcast with Dr. EJ Fagan and Dr. Paul Semendinger. We thank you for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Check us out online and Start Spreading the News. And we'll see you here live next Monday at 9 p.m. Have a great night.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.